Hello, BookTube. I thought we'd do another Megastuff video, this one for Friday. These are a sort of a grab bag video where all of the individual items, none of them is quite enough for a whole video on its own, so I've just sort of lumped them together. A lot of my favorite BookTube viewing is in the form of such bagatelle videos, and I myself alone, without any help from anyone, came up with the great name of a Megastuff video for exactly that purpose. And I've got a bunch of little things that I want to talk to you about today. I want to update you as if we were chatting over the back fence. And the first one is a tiny little thing. Just a tiny update because a number of you expressed interest. I mentioned the other day that I have a new mailman here at Hyde Cottage. And well, he's not really a mailman. He's more of a mail boy. He's a young man, and he is ostentatiously beautiful. I reserve my words carefully when it comes to this sort of thing. He is not just, better than average, or he's not, it's a normal adult age neighborhood, so of course he sticks out. No. In his own ranks, in his own demographic, he is ostentatiously beautiful. Tall, elaborate curly light blonde hair, beautiful face, obviously works out, that sort of thing. And I learned today, friendly. It helps a lot that I have Frida, because she is the cutest dog in the world. If you think she's cute in these videos, you should see her when she sees a human out on our walk. She is so incredibly friendly. She just run up to people to greet them and stand up against their legs and looking up at them with a big smile on her face. That helps a lot, but I would work anyway. I myself am fairly friendly, and those of you who are new to the channel might be wondering, well, how do you even see your mailman? Well, I don't have a normal job. I write for a living, so I can do that at home. And one of the foremost rules that I have with my dogs is that I deprive them of an essential freedom. I deprive them of the freedom to come and go as they please. Frida can't just come and go as she pleases. She needs me to take her outside on a harness. And as compensation for that, because that's got to stay true, right? I don't know what other dogs in this neighborhood would do if I weren't around with her. All of them are bigger than she is. And not to mention the fact that there's construction here and a 4-lane road with traffic. No dog's going to understand that. It would be gross irresponsibility to let a dog loose in a situation like that and just hope she sticks to the sidewalk. Now, I have to be with her. So the standard rule with dogs, for me, going back to the Garden of Eden, is that we go out when they want to. If I'm in the middle of something and I'm having fun or whatever, and Frida comes up to me and wants to go outside, we go outside. Anytime she wants to go out, we go out. So not only do I not have a normal 9-to-5, put on pants kind of job, but Frida and I are out all the time, which means I see a lot of my mailman. Not just here around Hyde Cottage, but the whole of his route. We go out and about on his route. I got to know everything about my old, battered, 1,000-mile stare civil servant mailman, the one who's been replaced. And I know that I'm going to meet this mailman, this mailboy, a lot. And we did. We met again today. That's the little Megastuff update, is that we met again today. We're still not at a point of exchanging names or anything like that, but I am going to learn everything there is to know about this boy. I know that I am. I have a facility for talking to 20-something boys, and he is right in that demographic. So it won't be long before I start to know lots about him. But one thing I got the impression today tricked my instincts like nobody's business. And these instincts, when it comes to young men between the ages of 18 and 25, I am never wrong. My instincts are never wrong with anything when it comes to them. I am never wrong about them. I know every twist and turn they've got. I know every thought. I know every dodge of a thought. I know every worry. I think it's why so many of them over the decades have found me a little refreshing to talk to. And I got an instinct triggered with this kid today, and I know for sure that I can practically write you the script, that an older relative of his, probably who was also in the Boston Civil Service, got him this job as a letter carrier. It wasn't his idea. And I'd be willing to bet that older relative did that as a sort of flailing response to his being famously aimless. I'd be willing to bet he is yet another aimless, early 20s young man. I'd be willing to bet a Boston cream pie that I'm right about that, and that it will come out in our subsequent conversations. It just hasn't yet, but I want to give you a mailboy update just for those of you who have expressed a curiosity about such things. Then the next thing involves the calendar. It couldn't fill a whole video on its own, but I was looking at the calendar, and we are getting perilously close to the end of August. August is almost over. As mind-boggling as that is, August is almost over. And in the Northern Hemisphere, that means, technically speaking, summer is coming to an end. And the minute I thought about that, when August ends, it will be September. Whether we want it to be or not, it will be September. And that means that November is actually close. It's not this unbelievably distant, unimaginable thing anymore. November is right around the corner, technically. And that means NaNoWriMo. So the one little stuff that I wanted to mention here is to put a sort of a marker out there for all of you to start thinking about NaNoWriMo, especially all of you that have no idea what you're going to do for this coming NaNoWriMo. If you've already been plotting or planning or working or sketching things out on paper, that's fine. Just keep in mind the rules of NaNoWriMo. You're not allowed to write anything ahead of time. You'd outline to your heart's content, and you should. We'll talk about that. But you're not allowed to generate anything until now, until the stroke of midnight on the 1st of November. But I wanted to put the little marker out there because I want a lot of company for NaNoWriMo. Now, I'm not on my high horse because I don't know what I'm going to do for November either. I have no idea what project. I do have lots of ideas, but I haven't even begun to center on them. And what's good for me is good for you, because when I saw that calendar, I realized, oh, you really should start to think about that. Because that's going to creep up on you right away, and it takes time and effort to outline something. So, that's another a little bit of stuff is just distantly. It's still a little bit distant, but it's not as distant as any of us think. I want you to start thinking about NaNoWriMo, because I'm not going to shut up about it. I want you all to join me for NaNoWriMo. And then the third bit of stuff, of course, is babies. Because we're doing a cavalcade of babies on this channel. I don't know what took me so long to come up with this idea. But I mentioned the other day that one of the events in September on BookTube is ShakeTube, where a group of booktubers, including myself, will be talking about Shakespeare all month long. And that I would be curious to see, because I'm incredibly nosy, I'd be curious to see your Shakespeare. So pull down your Shakespeare and use the high-definition camera that you have on your person at all times to take a picture. And I added, you might want to include your dogs in that. And I've been flooded with pictures, and they are still coming, and that is just great. Feel free to send as many as you like. And there have been some very standout pictures and some backsliders, some people who decided to slip in a cat here and there. And that is what starts us off this time around, is a couple of beauties. A couple of absolute beauties. Well, let's see if we can get the lighting here to cooperate. There we go. Is that going to help at all? There we go. Look at that book collection with a guardian right there. And this one's asleep. It's asleep with Shakespeare. Almost cute if they weren't spawns of Satan. And then we have Chucky. Look at that. He fits just perfect. And best of all, this is sort of the highlight of my day. This is little Nala, Italian Greyhound, who's just a little bit bigger than the Norton Shakespeare. And look at that. There's a size comparison for it. It's just a little bit bigger. Look at that. Almost looks like a fawn wandered into the house. That is the winner picture. Just a winner picture. And Nala, I believe, of course, much like Ziva before her, I'm sure that Nala has been named after a character. A character, in this case, a Disney cartoon. But anyway, those are all the little bits of stuff, and then we have a little bit of mail. There'll be more mail today, I'm sure. But this is a great big box from W.W. Norton, who's my favorite non-Penguin publisher. And it's huge. So it's either multiple titles from their fall and winter list, or it's one huge title. I'm up for it either way. So let's see what we have here. What have we got? Oh, it's a couple of books. Fantastic. Oh, I didn't have either one of these. Not in a printed book. I have been voyaging a great deal into ebooks these days. I have ebooks, both of these, but I didn't have printed books, and I actually want them. Oh, that is fantastic. Okay. All right. This first one is not my cup of tea at all. This is an artist that I don't like, and has never been of interest to me at all, even though I lived through the heyday when he was of interest to everyone. But I've heard so many things about this book that I want to dig into it. I have an e-copy. I was going to dig into it soon anyway. But this is by Philip Norman, and it's called Wild Thing, The Short Spellbinding Life of Jimi Hendrix. That is the cover design that they chose. Isn't that great? It's sort of, I mean, he's barely there at all. He's fading into the cover. Oh, I don't have a pub sheet, Phil. Look at all the praise on the back of this thing. Good Lord. I don't have a pub sheet for this, but I'll read a bit to you. Over 50 years after his death, Jimi Hendrix is celebrated as the greatest rock guitarist of all time. Is that a knock at Pete Townsend? But before he was setting guitars and the world aflame, James Marshall Hendrix was a shy kid in Seattle, plucking at a broken ukulele and in fear of a father who would hit him for playing left-handed. Bringing Jimmy's story to vivid life against the backdrop of the mid-century rock and with a wealth of new information, acclaimed music biographer Philip Norman delivers a captivating and definitive portrait of a musical legend. Drawing from unprecedented access to Jimmy's brother, Leon Hendrix, who provides disturbing details about their childhood, as well as Kathy Echtingham and Linda Keith, the two women who played vital roles in Jimmy's rise to stardom, Norman traces Jimmy's life from playing in clubs on the segregated Chitlin circuit, where he encountered daily racism, to barely surviving in New York's Greenwich Village, where he was taken up by the Animals bass player Chas Chandler in the 1966 and exported to swinging London and international stardom. And this just tells his story. I have heard wonderful things about this. A couple of people, those of you who are, like I mentioned, if you're new to the channel, you might not know, I'm a book reviewer. I'm a writer, that's all I do. And I know a lot of book reviewers, and a lot of them are in the same position that I am, where they get advanced copies of stuff. And a couple of different people have told me that this is worth my time. That a couple of them, one of the people who told me that said, I know that you're not a fan of this guy, but you've got to read this book. So, great, fantastic. And then the new book by Jill Lepore, who, as far as I'm concerned, can do no wrong. This is If Then, how the Simulatics, Simulmatics Corporation invented the future. If Then. And there we have the letter I in if is also one of these primitive bits and codes of carded information from the dawn of the computer era. And I've heard wonderful things of this anyway, but I would read Jill Lepore no matter what. I'd read her laundry list. The Simulmatics Corporation, launched during the Cold War, mined data, targeted voters, manipulated consumers, destabilized politics, and disordered knowledge, decades before Facebook, Google, Cambridge Analytica. Jill Lepore, best-selling author of These Truths, came across the company's papers at MIT's archives and set out to tell this forgotten history, the long-lost backstory to the methods and the arrogance of Silicon Valley. Funded in 1959 by some of the nation's leading social scientists, the best and brightest, fatally brilliant Icaruses with wings of feathers and wax flying to the sun, Simulmatics proposed to predict and manipulate the future by way of computer simulation of human behavior. In summers, with their wives and children in tow, the company's scientists met on the beach in Long Island under a geodesic honeycomb dome where they built a, quote, people machine that aimed to model everything from buying a dishwater to counterinsurgency to casting a vote. Deploying their people machine from New York, Washington, and Cambridge, and even Saigon, Simulmatics clients included the John F. Kennedy presidential campaign, the New York Times, the Department of Defense, and dozens of major manufacturers. Simulmatics had a hand in everything from political races to the Vietnam War to the Johnson administration's ill-fated attempt to predict race riots. The company's collapse was almost as rapid as its ascent. A collapse that involved failed marriages, a suspicious death, and bankruptcy. And this is Jill Lepore's new book. That ought to be enough to recommend it right there. But it's such a wonderful thing to have this writer just roaming at large in historical subjects, figuring out what interests her next. Her book, These Truths, is a history of the United States that ought to be required reading. It's just amazing. Not 100% sure. I've never seen a paperback of These Truths. It might not be out in paperback yet. So I don't know if I'm blurbed on it. I have no idea, but I hope I am. And this thing has blurbs aplenty. Yes, look at that inset cover. Look at that. For those of you who are very young, that is a computer. Not that. That is not a computer. That's a human being. But that is a computer. Whole room. 5,000 pounds. But this has blurbs on the back from just everybody. Lawrence Lessig, good Lord, Susan Orlean, and George Saunders. And they are also in bits of code. The blurbs on the back. Fantastic. All right, well, that's a great mail haul from Norton. That's 2 nonfiction books that I very much want to read. So there you go. Fantastic. So that is our Megastuff video for today. You've got a Mailboy update. You've got NaNoWriMo reminder. We've got some beautiful babies. And the books of the day. 2 nonfiction books that I imagine are going to feature prominently in coverage in September. So they're going to get, both of them are going to get reviewed everywhere, I'd be willing to bet. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. That is your Megastuff video for today. Who knows if we'll do one on the weekends. But I will do a Megastuff video whenever stuff accumulates. So I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.